The Panthers will have a new starting center this season, but who will that be? And do they have enough depth behind Robert Hunt and Damien Lewis? We'll try to answer those questions right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, and today's show is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. Back one final time, breaking down an offensive position group heading into the 2026 season for your Carolina Panthers. We've talked quarterbacks, we've talked wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, offensive tackles. Now we're talking about the interior of the Panthers offensive line, where there are two studs in Robert Hunt and Damien Lewis. But behind them, I'm very concerned about the depth that Carolina has, if they have any depth heading into this season, and whether they're going to address that. How many guys are the Panthers going to keep from this group of 9 players they have right now? But let's focus on what I think is the biggest story heading into this year, and that's the center position. Cade Mays was good for Carolina the last 2 years after Austin Corbett suffered a season-ending injury, and after Brady Christensen had to fill in for an injury to Ekwonu. Cade Mays came in and held it down in the second half of the season in 2024, and that coincided with Bryce Young having a renaissance and completely turn around his career here in Carolina, and the rest so far has been history, as Bryce, NFL.com, the players, top 198th ranked player in the NFL. So without Cade Mays, possibly, does that happen? I don't know. There's a lot of people who put a lot of stock into how Bryce played at the end of this 2024 season and Cade Mays being the center, and that was not anything that the coaching staff really took into account, as they went with Austin Corbett last year, who once again got injured, and then it was Cade Mays' job. But as we saw, they didn't really value Cade Mays above Austin Corbett, and it took Corbett getting injured twice for them to finally say, okay, Cade's our guy moving forward for the rest of the season, not long term, as they let him go to Detroit, where he signed a 3-year deal, paying him only $8.3 million per season, which is, in the grand scheme of the world, a lot of money. But for the Panthers, as much as they've spent on the offensive line, defensive line, they were not willing to invest heavily when it came to the center spot, until they decided to go out there and get Luke Fortner, who was a pretty cheap deal. 1 year, his guaranteed money is only $1.325 million. Nothing that would guarantee him a starting job. But he right now is the current favorite among the 3 guys who are designated as centers on the Panthers roster heading into camp. Last season for the Saints, he started 10 games and must have played well enough in the 2 Saints wins against Carolina for this coaching staff and for the front office to think that that was somebody that they wanted to bring in. And looking at his PFF grades, they were solid. He was a middle-of-the-road center last year in the NFL. Overall grade, 66.5. That was 18th out of 40 qualifying centers. Run blocking, 65.3. That was 19th out of 40 guys. Pass blocking, that was much better, 72.5. That was 7th out of 40. So when you look at it, he was a top half center in the National Football League based off of the 40 players that were qualified according to Pro Football Focus. So you will take that. He allowed 11 total pressures and 3 sacks and 442 pass blocking snaps. And really, he bounced back after not having a great start to his career in Jacksonville. He was a full-time starter with the Jags in 22 and in 23 before being benched in 2024 when they replaced him with the veteran Mitch Morse, who was coming over from Buffalo in the years where he started. So looking at 2023, the last time he was a full starter until last year when he started those 10 games for New Orleans, his overall grade was a 44.3. That was 36 out of 37 guys. According to PFF, run blocking, 40, 37th out of 37, so dead last. Pass blocking, still better than his overall and his run blocking grade, 54.9. That was 22nd out of 37 guys. So not great at all the last time he was starting, especially as a run blocker, and he allowed 28 pressures, 4 sacks that season. In 2022, when he was a full-time starter as well, his overall grade was a 49.6. That was 39th out of 40. Run blocking, 46.4, 38th out of 40. Pass blocking, again, better, 57.5. That was 31st out of 40. So he's a much better pass blocker. At least he's graded out far better in that stat, according to PFF, than he has when it comes to run blocking. And of course, pass blocking, run blocking is going to impact his overall grade. So, yeah, that is Luke Fortner. He played better last year, best numbers he's had his career, but I don't think New Orleans had him pegged to be their starter last year. It just became that situation for them later on the season, and things went well for New Orleans offensively. Tyler Shuck was great. And of course, Luke Fortner is now here in Carolina, and he is the current favorite to be the starter at center. But he's not guaranteed anything because Carolina in the 5th round decided to go get Sam Hecht, the center out of Kansas State, who, according to the Athletics' Dane Brugler, was the number 2 rated center on the draft board this past season, even though he didn't go as a second center taken. Other guys taken in the 2nd, 3rd round. And according to a lot of the draft nerds out there were some reaches when it came to the center position. This one was not a reach at all, and he's the first center the Panthers have drafted since Ryan Khalil back in 2007. I understand that Cade Mays was taken back in 2022, but he was taken as a guard. It took until this current coaching staff for him to be viewed as a center. So the last time they took a guy who was listed as a center on the draft card was 19 years ago, and that guy turned out to be pretty doggone good. Now, Khalil came from USC, that being Southern Cal. No disrespect to the South Carolina people out there. It was SC. He was 2nd-round pick. The high expectations were there. I don't know how high expectations are there for Sam Hecht, but he will get an opportunity. And Dan Morgan said as much after they drafted him on that Saturday afternoon back in April. And considering again that Luke Fortner is only guaranteed $1.325 million and he's on a 1-year deal and Hecht is on a 4-year standard rookie contract, I would think that he has a great chance to win this job. And looking at the last 2 years at K-State, he was a walk-on, returned to a scholarship player, and he's been 1st team and 2nd team all Big 12 the last 2 seasons where he started all 25 games at center for K-State. Looking at his PFF grades from a season ago, 80.3 overall grade. He was the 4th highest graded center in college football. 307 guys qualified. He was 4th last year in college. Run blocking, 77.7. That was 10th out of, again, 307 guys. Pass blocking, 79.6. That was 57. So even still, that's a good grade. It may not have graded out as high as the other guys. And I don't know what the competition level competition level is obviously different everywhere you go. SEC is the top one, Big 10, then ACC, then Big 12. You can try to put them on the same level. They're not. But yeah, he's a good player, allowed 7 total pressures in pass protection last season, 0 sacks, 0 hits allowed, 0 penalties. Durable player, a guy who's shown that he can develop into an all-conference performer and a draft pick. I'm excited about his future, but we did talk to Christian Rao earlier this offseason about Sam Hecht, and he thinks that he can be a starter, but it may not happen this year, which is why the Panthers went out there and got a budget guy in Luke Fortner and why he is the favorite. But Sam Hecht certainly could be the future, and the future could be now, though. There's a wild card as well. Nick Samac, Mike K's favorite player on the team. Not really, just, a joke. But Nick, somebody who allegedly they like, played in 11 games last year, played 46 snaps. All of them, though, were on special teams, so he has not been out there offensively to really help them out. But he's a developmental player who's been developing in this scheme over the course of the last calendar year. And now he has an opportunity, certainly based off of they just drafted the guy in the 5th round. That doesn't guarantee him anything. And they are only paying the guy that they brought in during free agency $1.325 million guaranteed. He's on a 1-year deal. So Samac could find a way to get in there as well and to be the starting center. They have options. And yet again, there'll be a competition. I think I felt a lot. Now, I don't think I know. I know I felt a lot better about the center position heading into last year because Austin Corbett only played like 4.5 games a year prior, but he's shown he's a pretty good player. And he's obviously was a vocal leader in that locker room. I didn't feel bad about him. And if things didn't work out, you had Cade Mays. I felt really good about the offensive line in general because they were bringing back their top 9 guys. And you had 2 guys who you knew could play center. This year, you got one guy who certainly has shown he can play center in this league, hasn't done a great job of it in totality, bounced back last year, but still a little concerning. And then Hecht, of course, he's never played center because he's never played a game in the NFL. And then Samac, again, is a wild card. So, yeah, felt a whole lot better about Cade and Austin than I feel about Luke, Sam, and Nick heading into the season. Not to say that these guys can't end up providing the same results. it just is a relative unknown. So who's going to start at center? I'm guessing week 1 Fortner, but after that, really late in the season, week 18, I have no idea how this is truly going to play out. But probably Fortner for the most part this season, and then Hecht's probably the future. But at this point in time, who the hell knows? I have even bigger questions about the depth behind Damien. The Panthers have 2 tremendous guards, but behind them, I don't really know what they have that makes anybody feel good about that. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working together towards the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. One thing that really stands out to me about this organization right now is how they got everyone pulling the same direction with the decision in the draft to draft Monroe Freeling with the 19th overall pick there in the first round. It wasn't just Dan or Dave or Brant. It was a coordinated effort across the board to make that the right pick for this organization. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. So I don't feel as good about the center position this year as I felt about it last year, where there was a real competition against 2 guys who I think truly can play that spot. Now, Austin Corbett's gone to Buffalo. He's not going to be their starting center. Cade Mays is going to be the starting center in Detroit, and Carolina let him walk. So if they struggle, it's on the team for not keeping him around. I think Cade's in a great spot with Dan Campbell. They've been traditionally a really good offensive line. There's been changes up there in Detroit. Happy for him. Wish we could have stayed in Carolina, but that was obviously not what the organization wanted to see happen. Maybe Sam Hecht is going to be the guy long-term in this year for them. Maybe Fortner last year finally turned it around, is going to be a solid center moving forward. Maybe Nick Samac is the wild card and turns out to be that guy. I don't know. I don't feel bad about it. I just don't really feel good about it. Certainly don't feel the way I felt about it last year, which is like, oh yeah, they'll be fine. Whether it's Austin or Cade, not a big deal. They'll figure it out. I don't know if I feel good about the depth at guard at all heading into this year. The Panthers 2 off seasons ago sought out to fix the interior of their offensive line by going out there and getting Rob Hunt and Damien Lewis on the first day of the legal negotiating period, much like they sought out this past year to upgrade at edge rusher and at linebacker by signing Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd. They did that 2 years ago by saying, no. What happened the year prior, even though it was really a large out of their control with the 7 different left guards, 8 different right guards, they wanted to get 2 guys who could protect Bryce, who could be road graders and be what they needed up front there at guard. And that has certainly been the case of Hunt and Lewis. Now, Lewis has been the better of the 2 based off of just what he was paid, his production, and his availability, but he's been a damn good player for them. And so has Rob Hunt when he's been out there. But looking at last year, Damon Lewis overall grade 75.7. That was 11th out of 81 qualifying guards, according to PFF. Pass block grade 78.5. That was 3rd out of 81. Run block 73.1. That was 14th, which I find to be crazy considering that he was so good when it came to run blocking. Maybe the second half of the season, he fell off as that group really had a tough time all around offensively running the football. He allowed 14 total pressures and pass protection. That included 1 sack, 3 hits allowed, and he was flagged 6 times over the course of the season. Overall was probably their best offensive lineman last season, consistency-wise, what he meant to them, especially when they lost Rob Hunt. Damn good player, someone who I felt like deserved and still deserves an extension to stay here. Maybe that's going to happen at some point in time. Maybe it's not a priority. I don't know, but man, he's been really good for them since they signed him. And Rob Hunt only played 177 snaps last season, playing in the playoff game, coming the first 2 weeks of the season before getting injured and then missing all that time with a biceps injury. But he's been good for them. Now his grades were honestly lower actually in 24 than Lewis's were last season and in 2024. But looking at the last time, the only time really he's been healthy for a full season, Carolina, 67.7 PFF grade. That was 23rd as 77 guards that year. Pass block 57.5, 57 out of 77. Then run block was 72.0, 19th out of 77. So he has not lived up to the $100 million man deal that he was provided, considering those were his numbers year one, but he only missed one game. And the consistency to be out there that season was huge for Carolina and huge, obviously, for him. And then last year, he got hurt and he got kind of banged up again in the playoff game. I don't know how healthy he really is heading into the year. That's going to be something to certainly monitor. But the best ability is availability, and he was not available last year. The hope is he'll be available this year. And if he is, then you feel really good about him and D. Lou out there together. If he's not, or something happens to Damien Lewis, something happens to both, I think the Panthers may be screwed, y'all. And I'm not trying to be negative Nancy here. I'm just looking at what they have behind them, and I don't know about it. Chandler Zavala, Sadiq Charles, Jatir Carter, Joshua Gray. Those are the four that we're looking at behind them right now at guard. Now, looking at Chandler Zavala, who was a fourth-round pick of the Panthers a couple of seasons ago back in 2023, it's been an up-and-down career. Year one, again, 7 different left guards, 8 different right guards. He got banged up. He was out there far too early, had a 26.2 grade as a rookie, and his pass block grade was 7.1. That was aided by the 0.0 in week 3 on the road against Seattle. Not great, but he did play better in 2024, playing about half the snaps he played as a rookie. He had a 71.2 grade, had a 73.9 pass block grade, 71.9 run block, looked good. And then last year he had an injury during training camp. Maybe that's something that lingered, but he dropped off again, 43.5 overall grade, 32.4 pass block, 54.7 run block. He's been a backup guard, and he's shown you to be kind of like maybe a below replacement level kind of player for the majority of his career. Like, you can kind of throw out year one, he got injured that year, but also shouldn't have been out there that early. Year two looked good last year, maybe the injury, and he certainly was injured a lot. That was probably a big impact. If he's back healthy like he was in 24, then okay, you have Chandler Zavala. You can feel good about that. If he's banged up, then it's like, okay, then you're really concerned about the depth, because I think he's got to be probably their third best guard on the roster, unless there's somebody else. Because I'm looking at it, Sadiq Charles, he's now here. He hasn't played a snap since 2023 back in Washington with maybe they were the Commanders back then. I can't keep track, but it was back in Washington where he did play 1,100 snaps, just under 1,200 actually, when he was there with the Commanders. And the last time he played, he had a 55.5 grade, pass blocking 53.9, run blocking 55.4. And that's basically been his career, because he didn't really play in 2020. He played 2 total snaps. But the most snaps he ever played in his career was back in 23 in Washington, 643. And that's where he graded out with those grades. The rest of the time, he's been kind of a reserve guy, where he had a 43.6 grade in 22, then a 67.6 grade in 2021. Again, don't really feel great about that. And then Jatir Carter, he's someone who's been here for the last couple of seasons. Started off in Chicago, played 206 snaps total there. 2023 is the only year he really played a decent amount, where he played 175 snaps, had a 49 grade offensively, 67.2 pass block, 44.8 run block. And he was on track, it felt like, back in 2024, coming off of that season in Chicago. When he was here in Carolina, it felt like he was on track to make the 53. He was getting run with the first team. He was able to go out there and, be that third guy, it felt like, at guard. Then he had a lower body injury, ended up getting waived, injuries waived. And then, that's basically been his story. He's been a practice squad guy. So maybe he can show what he was showing back in 24 to make maybe me feel good, but I don't know. I don't know how the staff feels, how they feel, how the organization feels about what they have. And then Joshua Gray is the other option, and he has not played a snap in the NFL. So after hearing all that I just told you, how do you feel? Because I want to feel good about it. I just have a hard time doing that, because last year you had Brady Christensen, you had Chandler, you of course had Austin Corbett, who could play guard for you. Cade Mays could play guard for you, depending on how things are playing out. There was more flexibility and continuity and experience. Now I don't see the flexibility. I certainly don't see the continuity behind, and I see a little bit of experience, but not the kind of experience that they had prior. So, yeah, this is concerning. This is concerning for me, looking just at this Panthers roster and looking at the guards and what they feel like, at least to me, do not have there behind Robert Hunt and Damien Lewis. Excuse me. So we'll see how it works out. All right. How many guys are going to keep? We talked about it on Wednesday with the tackles. They've only really kept 3, and you can kind of throw Brady Christensen in there, but really last year, Brady was a guard. How about this season? How many guards, how many centers, how many interior offensive linemen are they going to keep? We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Support for today's episode comes from Square, the business platform helping sellers become neighborhood favorites. Whether you're preparing for a busy season or managing everyday demand, Square helps keep your business moving with everything from payments and online orders to inventory, staff management, and more, all in one place. So business owners can spend less time managing tools and more time focusing on their customers. Square helps simplify the everyday work behind running a business while giving owners the tools they need to keep growing. And it's something you'll notice when you're supporting the local business that you love. There's a local spot I love and visit all the time where everything just feels easy. Checkout is quick. They know their customers and the whole experience feels organized. Those little details are what turn a business into a neighborhood favorite. And tools like Square help make that possible. Square helps you run your business more smoothly, bringing payments, operations, and insights together in one place so you're ready for whatever's next. Right now, listeners can get up to $200 off Square hardware when you sign up at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's SQUARE.com/go/LockedOnNFL. Get started with Square and build a setup that works the way you do. All right, let's try to project the 53-man roster and how many interior offensive linemen the Panthers are going to keep. Now, looking back at the past 2 years, that is the only sample size that we have of Dave Canales, of Dan Morgan, of Harold Goodwin, and of Joe Gilbert, the 2 offensive line coaches here in Carolina. They kept 10 offensive linemen back in 2024, of which 7 were interior offensive linemen: Damien Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Brady Christensen, Chandler Zavala, Andrew Rame, and Cade Mays. Of course, Brady played a decent amount at tackle that year, played a little center once Corbett went down with that injury that was out for having him out for the rest of the season. So he was kind of a Swiss Army knife. So they had 7 guys who were interior players. And I think wherever Brady goes, if he is able to sign anywhere, he'll probably be primarily an interior guy. Now, looking at last year, they brought back all of their top 9 offensive linemen, of which 6 of them were interior guys: Damien Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Brady Christensen, Cade Mays, Chandler Zavala. Looking at it now, Austin Corbett is a Buffalo Bill. Cade Mays is a Detroit Lion. Brady Christensen is a free agent. It's D-Lou, it's Rob Hunt, it's Chandler Zavala. Those are the 3 guys that are coming back. And I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to work out for them when looking at just the interior. So the Panthers have 3 guards. Sorry, they have 3 centers and 6 guards on the roster right now. Likely they're going to keep at least 2 centers and 4 guards. So looking at it, locks on the bubble, practice squad candidates, this has been the toughest one so far for me, to be honest with y'all. I know we started off with wide receivers last week, and I was really jacked up to talk about that and how there's still going to be some question marks. I feel good about projecting that at this point in time. Whereas with the guard spots and center spots, I don't really know. Locks, Rob Hunt, Damien Lewis, pretty clearly that's going to be the case. I think Luke Fortner, too, should be up there as a lock. And then I'd say Sam Hecht. It's because he's a draft pick. And it was a 5th-round pick, but he's a draft pick. I think that's a developmental kind of guy. So those would be the 4 I'd have locked up. So that's already 2 centers and 2 guards. So would they keep a 3rd center? And Nick Samac, possibly, could he play a little bit guard for them? Something we'll have to find out and monitor during the preseason. And once again, I know I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but like having that 4th preseason game is huge for especially the depth that they have there at guard. If they have any sort of quality depth at all, they got to find out what they have. Hell, that's what the preseason is about. That's what training camp's about. So if they get to the point where they feel like, oh, damn, they don't have it, you have the waiver wire, you have trades, you have options to go out there and make your roster better. And I do think, just looking at it right now, they're probably going to come to that realization at some point in time. I'll put Chandler Zavala on the bubble, even though he's probably their third best guard, the next one up. But it is year 4, and he has not been good. Now he was out there too soon as a rookie, was better the next year, was pretty banged up last year. So that obviously has played into his play. But he's a reliable player, because if he's going to be your third best guard, you need him out there on the field. And he's shown that that can be a big question mark when it comes to him being out there. So I have him on the bubble. I think he's probably on the roster. So that's already 5 out of the probable 6 that they would be taking. And then it comes down to Samac, Jatir Carter, Sadiq Charles. I don't really know, y'all. I think Samac because they like him. But then maybe they end up keeping 7, and then they only keep 3 offensive linemen, which that would be Monroe Freeland, Taylor Moton, Rasheed Walker. Then they cut Stone Forsythe. Then they go with Rob Hunt, Damien Lewis, Luke Fortner, Sam Hecht, Zavala, Samac, and then they keep maybe a guy like Jatir Carter. Like, that could be how I see it playing. But I look at Jatir Carter, Sadiq Charles, who has considerable more experience than Zavala and Carter. Maybe he's the third guy, as being on the bubble, especially at that guard spot. And I would think Joshua Gray is likely a practice squad candidate. Either way, this could be a problem spot for Carolina this season if anything goes bad. Now, as we've seen, typically it's cyclical as far as your health in the offensive line. 23, they were fine up front. Like 22. Sorry, no, hold on. What's this? 21. It's the only thing all the years I've been doing the show. 21, 13 different combinations in 17 games. 22, they were healthy. They road graded. They turned things around when Steve Wilkes took over and changed up the offense. 23, all the problems, 7 different left guards, 8 different right guards. 24, they were healthy. 25, they were not healthy. So 2026, which is the year we're at, they should be healthy, and that should help them have success on the offensive line, not have to worry about what's behind Robert Hunt and Damien Lewis. Knock on wood. All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast for our Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all, subscribe or follow the show for free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council. I'm back with y'all on Monday as we're taking a look at the offense as a whole, yet again, doing our state of the offense, looking at it heading into the year. Where is this Panthers offense? How much better can they get? What can the production look like? All the things, big questions, expectations. I'll give you all that on Monday here on Locked On Panthers. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And again, I'll talk to you on Monday here on Locked On Panthers.